There comes a moment in every life when your soul grows weary of being stretched thin. A moment when you look around and realize that the more you give of yourself, the less the world seems to value you. You answer every call, you show up for every demand, and yet, your worth is taken for granted. Your presence becomes expected, not cherished. Your kindness becomes an obligation in their eyes, not a gift. But when you finally decide to step back, when you choose silence over constant availability, everything begins to change. Suddenly, the same people who overlooked you feel the weight of your absence. The same doors that seemed closed begin to open, not because they were locked, but because you stopped standing at the threshold, begging to be let in. The truth is harsh. People respect what they cannot easily reach. What is scarce becomes valuable, and what is always available becomes invisible. If you want to be seen, you must first dare to withdraw. If you want to be valued, you must first teach the world that your time, your energy, and your presence are not cheap. When you step away, when your presence is no longer guaranteed, people begin to feel the silence you leave behind. It unsettles them, because they had grown used to the idea that you would always be there, ready to answer, ready to give, ready to fix. Your absence becomes louder than your voice ever was, because it creates a void they cannot ignore. That void is where realization begins. They start to question why they no longer have access to you so easily, and with every question they ask themselves, your value rises in their eyes. The absence you create forces them to reflect on how they treated you when you were available, and this reflection is a mirror they often do not like to face. In scarcity, your worth is revealed, because people always measure value by what they no longer possess. The power of absence is not in running away, but in choosing where and when you show up. It is a deliberate act, a controlled withdrawal that teaches others to respect your presence. When you are everywhere, in every moment, responding to every demand, your time loses its weight. But when you choose carefully where to spend your energy, suddenly your appearance carries meaning. Your silence speaks louder than constant words. Your absence feels heavier than endless presence. People start to prepare for your arrival instead of assuming it. They listen more carefully when you speak because they know you will not waste your breath on noise. You become a force, not because you push harder, but because you pull back and allow them to feel the gravity of your distance. Absence creates mystery, and mystery creates respect. When everything about you is predictable, when your time and attention are too easy to claim, you are stripped of intrigue. People assume they know you, and what is known is rarely valued. But when you step away, when you choose to withhold your constant presence, curiosity begins to build. They wonder where you are, what you are doing, and why you are no longer offering yourself so freely. That curiosity is a quiet power, because it places you in their thoughts without you needing to lift a finger. They speak of you differently. They remember you differently because now your presence feels like a privilege rather than a routine. The unknown about you becomes more compelling than the known, and in that space you command a subtle yet undeniable authority. The beauty of absence is that it forces others to face themselves. When you are no longer always available, they cannot lean on you the way they once did. They are forced to carry their own weight, to solve their own problems, to endure their own silence. And while they may resent it in the beginning, in time they will understand that your absence was never cruelty, but necessity. It was not abandonment, but discipline. By stepping back, you teach others not to drain you endlessly, not to assume that your well is bottomless. Your absence is a lesson. They learn to value what they once overlooked, and they learn that respect is not given freely to those who never demand it. In this way, your withdrawal does not weaken your influence, it sharpens it. In the end, absence transforms your presence into something extraordinary. People begin to mark the moments you are there instead of taking them for granted. They see you as someone who cannot be reached on demand, and that distance elevates your image in their minds. What is withheld becomes desired, and what is desired becomes powerful. Your absence makes them realize that your time is not something they own, but something they are allowed to share only when you decide. And in this realization, the balance shifts. You are no longer the one chasing recognition. You are the one being sought after. That is the true power of absence. It makes the world come to you. Boundaries are not walls meant to keep the world away. They are doors that you alone choose when to open. Without boundaries, you become a servant to everyone else's desires, a tool they pick up when convenient and discard when they are done. People will always take as much as you allow, and if you do not draw the line, they will never stop crossing it. The discipline of boundaries is the art of teaching others where your value begins and where their entitlement ends. It is not cruelty to refuse, it is wisdom. By saying no, by limiting access, you protect not only your time but your dignity. And once people realize they cannot walk through you at will, they begin to walk toward you with respect rather than expectation. The discipline lies in consistency, in refusing to bend simply because you fear losing favor. Too many weaken their boundaries the moment guilt is pressed upon them, and in that weakness they surrender their power. If you allow people to test your limits and you fail to hold firm, your boundaries will be seen as nothing more than fragile suggestions. But when you stand unshaken, when you enforce what you declare, others begin to believe you. They may resist, they may push, but in time they will learn that your discipline is stronger than their persistence. And this understanding reshapes their behavior because people instinctively adjust to the strength they encounter. When your limits are real, they begin to tread more carefully in your presence. Boundaries create scarcity, and scarcity breeds value. Imagine a fountain that pours endlessly, never slowing, never stopping. Soon no one gathers to drink because they assume the water will always be there. Now imagine a fountain that flows only at certain hours, reserved for those who wait and respect its timing. That fountain becomes sacred. Your time and energy are no different. If you pour yourself into everyone without measure, you will become background noise. But when you limit access, when you guard your hours and your heart, every interaction becomes weightier. The very people who once expected you to be available on command will now measure their requests more carefully, choosing their words with precision because they know your attention is not limitless. That is how discipline creates value. The strength of boundaries also transforms your relationship with yourself. Each time you enforce them, you affirm your own worth. You remind yourself that your time matters, that your peace matters, that your life is not an open field for others to trample upon. And with each reminder, your confidence grows. The discipline of boundaries is not only about teaching others, it is about teaching yourself to stop apologizing for valuing your existence. You learn to live without the chains of constant obligation, and in doing so, you reclaim your energy for pursuits that truly matter. This self-respect radiates outward, and people notice it even before you speak. They sense that you are not easily bent, not easily manipulated, and in their eyes you rise higher because of it. Most importantly, boundaries free you from the endless cycle of resentment. When you give too much, when you are always available, bitterness begins to grow in silence. You feel drained, unappreciated, and invisible, yet you continue to serve because you fear rejection. But once you establish firm limits, that poison no longer takes root. You give when you choose, not when you are forced. You appear because you wish to, not because you are commanded. Instead, this balance restores peace to your heart, and in that peace you find strength. And the world, sensing that strength, begins to treat you differently. Boundaries may seem like barriers, but in truth they are bridges to respect, to value, and to the life you were meant to command. Respect is not granted because you exist, it is earned through the way you teach others to treat you. The transformation of respect begins the moment you stop begging for it and start commanding it with your actions. When you no longer chase validation, when you no longer make yourself endlessly available, people start to see you differently. They recognize that you are not someone who will tolerate neglect or dismissal, and in that recognition, their behavior shifts. What once felt ordinary about you becomes extraordinary, simply because you no longer allow yourself to be handled carelessly. Respect grows not in the noise of your constant presence, but in the silence of your restraint. When you hold yourself with weight, the world is forced to carry you with care. The transformation happens quietly at first. People who once interrupted you begin to listen. Those who overlooked your worth begin to take notice. Those who relied on your weakness are startled to discover your strength. This shift is not about arrogance, it is about value. Respect is born when others see that you have drawn invisible lines around yourself, lines they cannot cross without consequence. And the more consistent you are, the deeper their recognition becomes. They understand that you are not to be trifled with, not to be dismissed, and certainly not to be taken for granted. In this discipline, you transform from someone easily forgotten into someone impossible to ignore. Respect follows strength, and strength is revealed when you no longer allow yourself to be diminished. As respect grows, so does influence. People begin to weigh your words more carefully because they know you do not waste them. Your approval carries weight because it is not given lightly. Even your silence becomes powerful because it is not born from weakness but from choice. This is the transformation, the shift from being seen as ordinary to being regarded as necessary. People adjust their tone, their posture, their treatment of you because they recognize the cost of losing your regard. Respect makes them cautious, attentive, even reverent. And all of this is born not from fear alone, but from an understanding that your value cannot be ignored. Once this change takes root, it spreads across every relationship and every interaction, setting you apart without you needing to announce it. Respect transforms how others perceive you, but more importantly, it transforms how you perceive yourself. When you see people treating you differently, when you experience the shift in their tone, their words, their behavior, it reshapes your own identity. You stop doubting your worth because you see it reflected in how the world responds to you. You carry yourself differently. Your steps become firmer, your gaze steadier, your presence heavy. This is not pride. It is clarity. You no longer feel the need to fight for recognition because recognition is already woven into the way others approach you. The transformation of respect, then, is not only external. It changes your own inner dialogue, erasing the doubt that once held you captive. And once respect has been transformed, it becomes self-sustaining. You no longer have to demand it. It flows naturally from the boundaries you have set and the absence you have allowed. People who might once have tested you now hold back, aware of the consequences. Those who once dismissed you now seek your favor, aware of its weight. You become someone whose presence is marked, remembered, and even sought after. Respect transforms you into a figure that others cannot easily discard, because your value is no longer invisible. The transformation is complete not when everyone likes you, but when everyone knows they must treat you with care. That is the true victory. To live in a world that no longer overlooks you, but instead stands still when you enter, because your presence commands attention without a single word. When you step back from constant availability, when you hold firm to your boundaries, and when you allow respect to grow out of silence rather than noise, you transform not only the way others see you, but the way you see yourself. Your absence teaches people to measure your worth. Your boundaries teach them how to treat you. And the respect that follows changes the balance of every relationship in your life. It is not about arrogance, nor about cruelty. It is about reclaiming what has always been yours, the right to be valued. Too often, people hand away their strength by making themselves too easy to reach, too easy to use, too easy to forget. But once you take control of your time and your presence, the world is forced to remember that you are not a commodity, You are a force. You are not here to beg for recognition. You are here to command it by the way you carry yourself. Every moment of absence, every boundary you protect, and every ounce of respect you demand adds to the weight of your presence until it can no longer be ignored. This is how everything changes, not in chaos, but in quiet discipline, in the firm choice to value yourself before expecting others to value you. And when you live by that standard, you no longer fear being forgotten, because the world cannot forget what it cannot easily possess. Thank you for listening. May strength guide your path, and may you always walk with dignity. God bless you.